Buckle up for AEC Trailblazers, the Founders Files, where we crack open the stories of the brightest minds in the AEC startup scene. Forget institutional pitches. We're diving deep into the real personal journeys of these industry disruptors. Get ready for some casual chats firsthand.
Hello. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Trailblazers podcast, where we interview the most amazing founders of the AC. Today with us, we have Ali. Ali is a mechanical engineer with over 15 years of experience in the construction industry, with expertise in design, BIM management, and site engineering. In 2021, Ali co-founded BIM Logic, where he serves as the CPO and drives the company's strategic vision of developing AI solutions through advanced AI technologies. In his personal time, he loves to kite surfing. That's so cool. I'm so jealous, man. Rock climbing. By the way, I do rock climbing as well, so we might talk about that later.
Nice,
And
yeah.
cooking. You want to say hi, Ali?
Hello. Thanks for having me on the show.
Did I miss anything in the description of your bio?
No, so it's not a super long description, and it's pretty much everything. We might have to catch up for kite surfing as well.
Where do you live right now, and where do you go kite surfing?
So we are in Sydney. I'm in Sydney, Australia, and of course, I'll go kite surfing. I wouldn't say Sydney is the best place in Australia for kite surfing. If you think about the best place in Australia, you'll have to go to Perth. But there's still we got a couple of spots that gives us some good wind and flat water for kite surfing.
Nice. And before we start into more personal questions, what's your favorite food that you cook? You said you like cooking. What's your favorite dish?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a good cook. I just try everything. I like some Middle Eastern food. I like some Mediterranean food. I try everything. Most of the time, I wouldn't say I cook very well, but I do my best. Typical. I think I'm good at barbecue. So when I say I love cooking, I'm not a very complex. I'm not a very good chef.
Hey, barbecue counts for sure.
Yeah.
But so can you tell me a little bit about you? How did you start your journey? I know you're a mechanical engineer. How did you ended up in the AC industry, basically before BIM Logic?
Right. So yeah, I started in the design phase in the engineering on the building services side. I started on the tools, started on the drawing boards as a draftsman first, and then moved on to the engineering, to the design, and then I got more and more interested in the BIM world, and then I moved on to the BIM roles, BIM coordination, and my last role was BIM management before moving to BIM Logic. How we started BIM Logic, it probably goes back to a few years ago, and I still remember I was out with a few of our friends and my business partner Amir. I was talking about the workflows in construction, and typical of the construction projects, you're under stress, you got so many deadlines to meet, and I was complaining about my work. And Amir, I should say, my business partner, he's a tech guy, he's got PhD in AI. And then he asked a few questions like why you're not automating the things that I mentioned. And what I said was, it's not like there are no automation tools. There are automation tools, but some of them are not really helping us. I'm sure you've seen a lot of them. There are some tools that you use, and sometimes instead of it saving your time, it probably create more work for you to clean the mess after. So we discussed our workflows, processes, and stuff like that. And then we decided that one of the areas that hasn't been paid a lot of attention to is the documentation phase in the design. So there hasn't been a very good tool to even a simple task of auto tagging give you a result that is saving you time, actual saving you time. And for example, a tool that gives you a result that is closer to human outcome. So we decided to focus on the documentation phase. Did a bit of research, didn't find a good tool, of course, and then tried to solve the problem, tried to come up with the best solution. We realized that it was a very, very complex problem to solve. And then we came up with our own algorithm to solve this simple task. We call it simple task of auto tagging when it comes to human, but when it comes to the machines and computer, it can be a super, super complex task to resolve. Um, if you think about it, if I want to go to a bit of detail in that, if you think about auto tagging process, when you put the tags, you don't want the tags to overlap. You want the tags to be placed in a position that is readable. If it's congested in an area, usually a human would push the tags away from that congested area and put the leader lines for it. If you put the leader lines, you don't want the leader lines to cross. You don't want the tags to go over other objects. And this makes it a super complex problem to resolve. And if you think about a project can, in a construction project, especially when it goes to the construction phase and you put all like shop drawings and all the construction details, it can take up to 40 or 50% of a draftsman time to just do the documentation. I was delivering a hospital project. That project was something between like 300 to 400 sheets, and every dock layout, shop drawing dock layout, would take one draftsperson 2 days just to annotate detail, put the annotation in, put the dimensions in. Imagine 2 days. And if you say 300 sheets on average for 2 days for a draftsperson to just document, it's something between 400 to 600 days to just document the whole project, detail the whole project. So it's a significant amount of time. And yeah, that's how we started BeamLogic with our first product called the Smart Annotation.
I wish I had BeamLogic 10 years ago when I was a Beam manager, and I was the one reviewing those sheets, and for me it was a headache. Like, I had to review, and there were so many mistakes, and I was like, this should be an automation. These people should be just checking if the automation is not perfect and just adjusting minor details, not me checking something that goes again to them. But before we get into the details of the AI and how my life could have been so much better.
And that's so true. On that project, when the details are missing, there's always an angry project manager on the phone. The drawings would go to the manufacturing. The details are missing. It would delay the project. It's not only missing a detail. It's a lot of a snowball effect. If things are missing on the drawings.
It takes all the time to just review it and then take it back to the guy who is a drafter. But I'm super curious. It sounded really easy for you. Like, hey, I met this guy. He told me, let's automate this. And how do you trust? Because he was not your friend, right? He was just a strategy at the time, right? Or he was...
Oh, no. Sorry. He was my friend. So he's a friend of mine for almost 12, 13 years. Yeah. But we never had a chance to talk about our work or stuff like that. So that was the day that we started actually sitting down for 1 or 2 hours, talking about the work. And when I say talking, we are in construction, so it's not talking, it's complaining about the work that we have to do.
But that's something we all have in common in the construction industry. It's like, it's an industry where everybody complains all the time.
Everybody complains, yeah.
I don't know if all the industries are like that, but I don't think so. But then how is to work, decide to work with a friend? Because I do have friends that I'm sure I would love to do business with. And there are friends that I'm not so sure. I love them, but I'm not so sure. How was for you? Because there's always risk. So it was straightforward, yes, let's do it, or how was the process for you?
You mentioned a very good thing. So you really need to trust your friend. You really need to have a good relationship with your friend before doing any business. As I mentioned, we knew each other for almost 12, 13 years. And the process has been very, very smooth without any issues, to be honest. So we discussed the problem. We tried to solve the problem. It's proven to be one of the most difficult problems that he ever tried to resolve, to be honest. He had his own challenges. We have our own challenges during the course, but we never had any personal conflicts or personal issues. And I think that's the most important thing. If you work together, you resolve the problem. But if you have any conflicts or issue between you, then that cannot be resolved.
I'm going to say something that I'm sure a lot of people are not going to be happy about, but I feel that engineers, they 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 have sometimes not better communication skills, but they're straightforward. So this is the issue, we need to solve it, and you solve the issue. I'm an architect. Architects sometimes we go around the problem. We get more creative, and it's harder sometimes for us to solve the issue. So every time I hear someone saying like, "We just discuss the issue, we solve it," it's like engineers. That's clearly you're engineers, but
Well,
that's
I'm
good.
glad to
That's
hear
really
that because
good.
I thought engineers could be a difficult people, could be difficult people to deal with.
I feel with the like sometimes if it's an architect or someone that comes from a different background and speaks with an engineer, it's hard. At the beginning, when at the start of my career, I was an architect, started managing software engineers, and for me, even I being a developer or knowing something about development, it was hard because communication skills, it was different. The communication was just different, but between them it was so easy. So over time I learned how to do it, but I feel when engineers talk to each other, they talk the same language and they're both straightforward, they're like concise, not abstract. So I feel that's the key, I guess, on my experience at least. I don't know if you
I,
feel the same.
I agree with you. Yeah.
But um going back to AI and 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 when you started, do you feel things have changed in terms of infrastructure? Because you started 2 years ago, and like it sounds like just 2 years ago, but 2 years ago we didn't have ChatGPT, for example, or we didn't have Midjourney, or we didn't have all these large language models on. So the technology is advancing so much. So how do you feel about that, and how you cope with technology? You being the ones using a technology that changes almost every day.
That's a very good point. So, and you mentioned exactly the right thing. When we started a smart annotation, well, of course, it was a bit of R&D before we actually start. We decided to solve this problem as an optimization problem. You have a set of rules that you would like to resolve, and what you want is an engine to just go and respect all the rules and find a solution that is most suitable compared to all the respecting all the rules. So back then we well, of course we investigated the whole market. We tried all the off-the-shelf products. We tried all the optimization engine that were available, and we couldn't find any good solution. So we ended up developing our own optimization engine. We developed our own algorithms to solve this problem. And you're 100% right. We didn't have LLMs back then, and we built our platform as an optimization or our software as an optimization solution. Right now, we have LLMs that's changing the whole landscape dramatically. With smart annotation, the way that we decided to solve the problem as an optimization, we knew that there are options, for example, for machine learning or even things that I wouldn't say LLMs, but more towards the machine learning algorithms. But we decided that we wanted to use optimization because we wanted the results to be always consistent, and we wanted to have the control over how the results going to be produced. So in terms of LLMs going to change what we've done with the smart annotation, probably the impact's not going to be huge. However, we are investigating right now if, for example, technologies like GPT vision or visions in LLMs can improve some of the quality of that results or make our app working faster. This is something that we are working on right now. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't be a dramatic change from like getting rid of whatever we have developed so far and moving to another technology. It's more going to be more like a hybrid solution from now on. And what we have done in BIM Logic is we created our own benchmarking system, and in our benchmarking system, if there is any new technology, if there is new algorithm that we develop, we have to test it first to make sure that this technology is giving us the result that we want. You know, you're 100% right. Every day there's a new technology coming up, and we go and we test these technologies most of the time. We automated the whole process. We bring the technology, we benchmark it, we see the result, we see the stats. If the results are good, we start investigating more and bring it to our solutions. By the way, I should mention that you mentioned LLMs. I'm excited to mention that we have our BeamLogic Copilot released as a beta version. It's already available on our website. You can go on our website and sign up and get early access to BeamLogic Copilot. Our Copilot is a Revit Copilot. This is our second product or maybe third product. It's using LLMs. It's a code-generating Copilot, and it can execute any task that you can explain in Revit, even complex tasks. We can talk about it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask questions about? Like,
of course, yeah.
When not gonna ask what model are you using behind it or anything like that, but we did a test. Like last week, we were testing something with LLMs. We're basically using Cloud, the latest Cloud model, and we're having a problem. It was just not a product like we were doing. It was just more R&D, and we were sending a request to the LLM model and basically getting the code and then running the code into the Revit API. And the problem we were having is first hallucinations. Like every now and then, it just fails. Like it's not sending anything, not even sending anything back. And sometimes even sending things that doesn't make any sense. It's not even code that you can run. But let's say you try, and that's what we did. We try over and over again until we get a result that works. Sometimes trying more than 10 times with their API. And even when you get a result, it's not a consistent result. It's not always the same answer. So how do you cope with that? You're actually building a robust product, not like us that we're doing just R&D. How do you cope with that?
That's absolutely right. And that's the biggest challenge with LLMs and using different LLMs even. So what we did the testing, and as I mentioned, we have the benchmarking system that we can test different type of LLMs. We are using multiple LLMs on our Copilot. For example, we are using ChatGPT. So we are using GPT-4, and then we're using Anthropic. And we're testing different ones that's coming every day. If what we have done is once we send a request, a user or you put your request or you put your command in, it would just go through a lot of hints, a lot of prompt engineering behind the scenes to reduce the amount of hallucination or reduce the amount of unexpected results that you would like to see. And then we have our own code database that our Copilot will just put as a prompt to the LLM. So it would increase the accuracy or increase the consistency of the results. That's pretty much how you can work with LLMs to increase the accuracy. I'll give you some stats. If you don't have the code snippets or our code repository, and we run any of the LLMs on our benchmark, the result is going to be something around 15 to 20%. So when I say 15 to 20% is the amount of the results or the commands that would be executed. It's similar to you just go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to give you a private API code. 80% of the time, it's not going to work. It's too generic or it didn't understand your commands. But with our code engine, the accuracy is something around 70 to 75% right now. And we are working on it to increase the quality or increase the accuracy even more.
That's so cool. And I feel that's the difference between just having a new technology out there than actually applying it to a market. Like I feel it's completely different. It's easy to just say, yeah, ChatGPT is amazing and it could potentially do this, but then the implementation, it's key. Like the idea, yeah, sure. We all have ideas on how to even use these LLMs to model the building automatically. Good luck trying to do that. So that's super cool. And sorry, I'm getting super nerdy here, but this is something that I feel a lot of entrepreneurs suffer with this new technology, and not trying to encourage people to be with Beam Logic at all. But I feel everybody is trying to use LLMs on a different way, like for really different weird type of things. And there is something that I've seen people deal, like entrepreneurs deal and have a hard time, which is tokens, and how do you charge people, and how can you be fair when sometimes it's so hard to measure how much is gonna take a prompt and how much is gonna charge you, so then you can charge your clients. So given the fact that a lot of people that hear this are entrepreneurs or people that want to have their own products, what do you feel about it? What do you think about this? And do you think it's going to be a problem? Do you think it's going to change in the future? Or, sorry, I got super technical about this, but it's a problem I've seen over and over again.
This is one of the items that we discussed, to be honest, as well. So pricing can be different in future and can get more and more challenging, or it's what they usually call them, like service-based pricing these days, instead of like just annual subscriptions or old school method of pricing. What we are thinking on our Copilot is still on annual subscription pricing module. And the way we are going to tackle this is our Copilot is capable of saving the commands. So what we expect the users to use our Copilot is you start communicating with the Copilot, you get to the point that you're happy with the result. And if you're happy with the result that the Copilot can produce, you can just tell the Copilot to save this command for you. Once you save the command, it will become like a Revit add-in, and you don't have to use the LLMs anymore. And it's going to be faster, and it's going to be executable on your PC. So for us, annual subscription makes sense because yes, maybe we pay more in the beginning when you are doing a lot of API calls to the LLMs, but eventually when you're just using the tools as just calling the add-ins that you saved, then we don't have to pay for the LLMs. And the way that we can control the amount of tokens generated is using our code engine. So what we are working on right now is training our own code generating engine. So if we generate our code, train our code generating engine, the API calls to any LLMs is going to be very limited. It would be only for the commands that you ask, or some translation of the commands in just the beginning for an interface. And the way I see things are going, I think API calls are going to get cheaper and cheaper. GPT used to be more expensive, and Anthropic is out there now. Gemini is out there now, and I think they're competing the price, so it's becoming more and more affordable. But to answer your question, I think the best method for any platform that you write on LLMs is going to be a token-based pricing strategy. However, I personally think that it's a bit complicated for end users. If I'm an end user and somebody calls me and, okay, you have to buy 1 million token, I have no idea how many tokens I'm going to use for each command. And even the LLM cannot tell you how many commands it's going to be generated, because there would be a few back and forth to resolve the errors. So we don't want our pricing to be complicated. And the way that I think we have to adopt the technology to give a very simple pricing to the end user, not to complicate it, or not to giving you the feeling that, okay, they might pay extra for something that they didn't have to pay.
That's I feel that's a great answer. Like, trying to push your problems to your clients instead of solving it is the right way of doing it. Like, I know it's more expensive for you because you have to build your infrastructure and you have to have your own engine. But at the end of the day, if the delivery to clients is not a perfect thing, there is no way they're going to buy it, because it's like, use something like even APS, Autodesk APS, that it works with tokens. It's so complex because you don't know how many tokens are going to last. It's like, I rather prefer that you charge me per use like Amazon does, then they charge me per tokens because it's so complex. And I don't know. I wish no one charges you for tokens, but and I think it's gonna happen. With LLMs, I think that's gonna happen. Eventually, someone is gonna find a way where I don't know they deploy models in a way that it's much more faster or cheaper or whatever, and it's gonna be more of a subscription or charge per use. Eventually, I feel this because competition is gonna make it that way. Like I agree with you on that.
And on
Like
our
we're
roadmap
just seeing
is
the
to
tip of the
provide
iceberg.
two pricing module depending on the users. If they want to use token based, they can use token based or task based, or if they want to use annual subscription, they can. I think we need to give the flexibility to the end users.
And that's great. And what about the future? Like I know you create schematics, you draft stuff, basically you annotate stuff automatically. Thanks for that. And now this product of a copilot that is going to create add-ins automatically in Rabbit. What's the future lies for BeamLogic? Is it going to be other platforms? You want to create your own platform? You want to just add more features into Rabbit? What's the idea?
Yep. So our technologies are mainly software agnostic. So, and our vision is we are not in the business of creating another Revit or creating another platform. What we are trying to do is to provide service to any platform that the end user would like to use. At this stage, we are only supporting Revit, but in future, our vision is to support any platform that the end user use in the AEC industry. For example, a smart annotation, all of our technologies are completely independent of Revit. However, as I mentioned, we're only supporting Revit at this stage, but all of our engines sitting on AWS GPUs. So we can support any platform that end user is going to use at the end. And similar to Copilot. At this stage, Copilot only supporting Revit. It makes sense for us to work with Revit because Revit's got the biggest number of users, but in future, it won't be Revit only. Revit's going to be, or Revit or any other product is going to be the shell of end users that the users are more comfortable to do their design. And
That's true. I feel that we have been using Revit for a long time, but I'm not sure. This discussion I had with a friend with a lot of beers, having beers in New York, that he was saying that Revit is going to be here for a long time, and for sure. But I think there is not going to be a Revit killer. There's not going to be a software that comes and just steals Revit all the way. I feel it's going to be smaller products that steals smaller parts of the process. They're going to be more specific to different type of engineers, like you do. Like, for example, Revit now it's for structural engineers, MEP engineers like you, like architects. It's for everybody. But I feel in the future is going to be just smaller platforms specifically for not only for engineers like MEP engineers, but it might be just for electrical engineers, and it might be specific for a piece of the process, not just pre-designed, design, drafted. It might be just drafting, like just take stuff from there and it drafts everything automatically into something like BeamLogic, for example. I don't know. What do you think about the theory?
no, it absolutely makes sense for more specialized programs for each discipline. Yeah, maybe it's happening. Maybe it's happening somewhere in the world and we don't know. And then suddenly in the next few months, a new product comes up. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think what I would like to see,
it's hard.
especially with the availability of LLMs, is some of the products or some of the platforms that are out there is very well suited to the older way of interacting with the software. If you know what I mean, for example, Revit, you need to use the user interface that is designed for that kind of software. You need to select an element. You need to use the user interface to do things manually, step by step. But now that we got the option of LLMs and platforms like Copilot, you can have more abstract commands for interacting with your software. If you got a very reliable copilot, instead of you selecting point A to point B to draw a wall or then move the wall from here to there, you can just tell the copilot that you would like to, for example, have walls of this type, and you would like these walls to be on this type of rooms, for example. Your commands are going to be different. So I think we are at this stage that we need different interaction with software with different platforms, and I think it will happen eventually.
Yeah, it's something that I feel happens over and over again. It is like when we didn't have like search engines, right? Like you would need to have a list of websites by sorted in a way that you can find it over and over again. Otherwise, it would be a mess. Imagine having 2,000 of your favorite websites. But now you don't care. You just Google it. And it changes the way you storage and the way you behave. The same goes for if you go to school now, doing homework, it's just so easy. Like, hey, do a homework on the history of certain person. You just go to ChatGPT and you will get it. So knowledge, I'm not saying it's not going to be important, but it's not going to be the same. You will not need to put like a lot of things in your memory. Logic is going to be more important in the future. So what you're saying for me makes so much sense, because you're not going to waste time just trying to go to another view or another section of the software and then click here, click there, click. When the interface and the way you interact with the software is going to be more natural and more fluent than we were used to. And I feel it's going to be amazing because you're going to interact with all the platforms in the same way. It's going to be just human language. I don't know. For me, it's insane.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting to see. I'm very positive to see what's happening, and I'm excited to see the new more and more new platforms coming up. I think it's an interesting time.
Well, you are developing one of those platforms, so it's more interesting, even more interesting for you, for sure. I don't want to take more of your time. I know you're super busy, and I could keep asking questions about AI for 2 hours. But before we leave, can I ask you a couple of ping pong questions?
Of course, sure.
Sure. Okay, can you tell me a great AC software?
I still think Rabbit is the best.
The next big trend in the AC?
I think it's LLMs. It's changing the whole landscape dramatically.
Hopefully we will get an LLM that creates buildings, or at least 3D geometry in a fluent way. I'm betting on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's happening. Like using LLMs to do generative design, it's not that far off.
No, it's not. If you could collaborate with any person in history, which person would it be?
Well, I would love to collaborate with Jeff Bezos. I'm impressed the way that he manages his organization, and it's very imaginary, but I'm very impressed with his work.
Yeah, insane. What's your favorite building in the world, and have you ever visited?
I would say it's Sydney Opera House, and of course, I get to see it often. It's a magnificent piece of art, and it's a very good location. And of course, it's not only the architectural side; it's an interesting building in terms of engineering side as well. You need to have a lot of the high quality aspect of engineering or the design of the building services there too. You need very good humidity control, temperature control, the acoustics. So it's an interesting building, and I get to visit it a lot. And I think I was lucky to work on some of the refurbishments because I was working with a company who were doing projects for Sydney Opera House.
That's so cool. It's a building that was so ahead of its time when it was built. That's what I feel. Like it's a building that it feels it was built yesterday, but it is like 30 years old. And finally, are there any books that or a specific book that you recommend to other entrepreneurs?
Well, I'm reading this book right now. It's called Seven Powers of the Foundation of Business by Hamilton Helmer. I found it very interesting. I would definitely recommend it to anybody who would like to get an idea. You know, I wouldn't say what the book says. I don't want to spoil it, but I would definitely recommend it for anybody who would like to go the journey of entrepreneurship.
I will give it a try and let you know what I think. That's the problem
Yeah.
with asking that question every time someone asks something. I haven't read it. I want to read it. So I will let you know what I think. And before we
Sure.
leave, can you tell everybody where they can know more about BeamLogic and also contact you as well?
Of course, BIMlogic is spelled like BIMLOGIQ. It's bimlogic.com. My email is ali@bimlogic, so ali@bimlogic.com. And of course, anybody can always reach out on LinkedIn. It's probably one of the best social medias for professional networking now.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for this entertaining talk, Ali, and I hope to know more about BeamLogic in the future.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks to our listeners. If you like this content, you can find past and upcoming episodes in ascworks.everse.com and at all of our Everse social media. We'd love to hear from you and recommendations for new content, so leave us a DM and we'll make sure to catch it.